this year that I started to think like, okay, like maybe I can like start to think about tackling another one because it's very draining the whole process of
Yeah,
like I know you probably have experience with this too, look, but it's like the campaigning and everything. It really like if you're not like built for it, I think it really like it wears you down.
it's exhausting. Yeah, I know. Like for a lot of okay, so before we get into the like the nitty gritty of the campaign and all that stuff, let's start with your process of coming up with a story of creating the stories. Like, do you like what like what I mean, the typical process. Like, how do you write it? Did you go somewhere to learn how to write it, or even like it's more like the process of the creative part. You know what I mean? Like coming up with the
Yeah,
story, the outline, the plot, and what that entails or involved with that, right? So
sure. Yeah. So I think for me the creative process, like something that I do rarely is like have an idea and then like be ready to like start uh developing or creating it like in a reasonable time frame. I feel
right,
like almost everything I work on is like something I've had like simmering like on my mind for like like many years at a time before I start to explore it. So usually there's that like incubation period, I guess, of
yeah,
like I mean, it can range from like 10 like, or start from the lower end, like maybe like 1 year to like 10 or more sometimes.
right,
And but part of that is because there's not always like a pressure to immediately move forward with a certain story idea
right,
until there's like, oh, you need to pitch for this, or like there's, you find the perfect artist for it, and then that's like the kick you need to like start making the concrete outline and everything.
right.
But until I have that pressure, usually I just these like countless Google Docs of like incomprehensible ideas that like half of them I never open it ever again. Half of them I go in there and I have like no idea like what any of it is supposed to mean.
Right.
Um, but it's a very long and messy brainstorming process. And then once I get to the writing portion for comics, especially, like I think something that helps a lot is having like a specific artist in mind for a story already, because
Okay.
then it's like you can visualize how the pages are going to look in their style, and you can kind of tailor both the page layouts and the story itself to some extent to like the strengths of the artist, right?
Right.
uh, Before you're at that stage, it's a little bit more abstract, and sometimes you don't have a choice because like sometimes you do like come up with the story before you like start looking for an artist. But
Right.
I find that like when you know who the artist is going to be, like it helps a lot with
Oh,
with
wow.
that side of the
I
process.
never thought it that way, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting. So like a lot of the writers I know, usually they're constantly writing, and I'm assuming you're doing the same thing. Usually you could be just going to work or sitting on the bus or driving somewhere, and you see something and you have an idea. Thus the Google Doc,
Yeah, or
right?
even worse, the notes app on
Yeah,
the phone, like that's far just far messier in terms of like, because on the Google Docs, it's like more likely to be writing sentences at least, or like
right.
more comprehensible fragments. But when I look at my phone notes, because like a lot of the time it is like I like literally just like woke up from a dream, or I'm on the bus like you said, and I
Yeah.
have to put down a few words really quick to try and not forget. But then it's such a jumble of words and concepts that when I look back at it, it's just like it looks like, I don't know, like the ravings of a madman.
Right.
You don't have a journal, a little journal, a daily journal, or
I have many journals. All of them have like the first two pages filled out, and then I like lose track of them, or like I'm traveling and I have to buy a new one. So I feel like all these journals, if I like combine them, they would probably be filled up. But instead, I just have like so many that just the first two
Yeah.
pages written.
Yeah, it's understandable. It's like me. Everywhere I go, I always have a sketchbook, right? And if
Yeah.
if I forget, I run into the dollar store and I grab one. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
And
And then you just have this pileup of like the cheapest
Yeah,
notebooks and sketchbooks that you can find.
and it just piles, and it's got like 2 or
Yeah,
3 pages filled and
yeah,
another one filled and stuff like that.
exactly.
So yeah, like so the process is pretty much the same as any creative field that we get into. So you have this uh jumble mess of a bunch of ideas, plot lines, story points, and other things that inspiration. Now, when it comes to, um, do you ever go over, or is there one where it grabs you, then you need to sit down and flesh it out? Do you like do you think in terms of, oh, I got to do this, is going to be an anthology, so it'll be 8 pages or 9 pages, or is this going to be just something you just write down because you need to write it, you need to get it out, right, or something like that?
Like, is is the question like, is there like an idea where it's like I need to like jump on this right now and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
start
Do you
making
ever
it?
run into that, or do you ever go back to a few later on? Let's say you're doing the anthology, right? Do you go
Yeah.
back and you start going through your stuff, and you got to flesh out 15 stories, 2 stories, 3 stories, and stuff like that? Like it's like what is your favorite baby? You gotta
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing about like like the babies of like the different have juggling different projects is that
right,
like I find for me it's like there usually is a favorite at any given time, which is like kind of unfortunate in some ways when you're
yeah,
working on more than one thing. But I'm not a parent, so I don't know if
yeah.
this is how it is with
Same thing, like
kids.
pretend it's a cat, right?
um, but yeah, like I think like usually there is like just like one idea that's gonna feel more exciting than like the other stuff that's
Right,
like on my plate at the moment, which is like a little bit unfortunate because it's like with kids or cats or stories, like I love all of them, but there is one that's like the top of the priorities, right?
right.
And you can like I feel like that can be like weaponized sometimes
Hmm.
in terms of productivity because sometimes like I'll use like one story to like procrastinate like from the other one that I'm supposed to be working on.
Okay.
And it feels a little bit, it feels like exciting in a way that's like, oh, I'm like misbehaving, doing something I shouldn't, but it's still like in service of getting writing done on like something else, you know?
Right.
So that's how you like make it feel like you're having like a little bit like of a like an affair almost with like your other project.
Right.
Um and it's just a way of just kind of like forcing the productivity.
Right. Like, do you force yourself to write every day? Because I read I believe Stephen King, he says he sits down every day and he just writes whatever. Right.
Yeah, I know that's like it's recommended and a lot of people like I
Hmm.
go through phases of writing every day. I usually don't. I usually am not like as like strictly regimented in the sense of like okay from like 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. that's like when I'm gonna do my writing
Right.
or like or I have to do like this many pages or words every day.
Yeah.
But ever since I started doing comics, like very actively 2 years ago, um, like there's just been so much to do on the various projects that like I've had to do like something every day, whether it's like
Right.
writing or giving notes on art pages or even stuff like marketing, brainstorming. There's
Oh
just so
yeah.
many different little pieces of the puzzles that like
Yeah.
I'm doing at least something every day that
Yeah.
like is not necessarily writing, but like is part of the overall like indie comic creation process.
Right. It's part of the discipline, I guess, of being a creator yourself, right? You're the editor, you're the right, you're the
Yeah,
marketing team, you're
yeah,
you're the finance team. I mean, I understand how Stephen King can write every day because he's got millions of dollars in assets,
right, right.
right? That he's
And all
allowed to
and
do that.
also I feel like I mean I have no idea how true this is, but like people also say like oh he was like on like on like cocaine a lot of the
Which
time, which like might
we can't
also
afford anyway.
put
So
the focus.
Have you mentioned dream taking notes after the dream.
Mhm.
Uh, have you ever had a dream diary by itself?
Not specifically a dream diary, because um yeah, I feel like if it's, if it's a especially interesting one, like I'll like, you know, write some notes on it, but like not all dreams are interesting. So
Well,
I just
yeah, that's a I don't know how I did it, but I kept the dream diary for I don't know several months,
oh yeah, that is
and
impressive.
huh?
That is very very disciplined.
Yeah, but I don't know. I did. I cannot do it now if he asked me to do it. But one thing that I noticed, I mean, I always keep it that I keep the dream diary by itself. Nothing else goes in there but dream diary, dream, and it's always by my bed. So if you go to a hotel, you don't have it, But
Yeah.
most of the time you have it, and it's always by bed, and that's how I keep it. And some, like you said, some of them I write it down. It sounded really good at the time, right? Then you read later,
Yeah.
it's really weird,
Yeah,
just
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
yeah. But but I mean, if you do it long enough, it gets longer. I notice.
Oh,
I retain.
like remember more?
Yeah, I remember more, and this really seemed to. There was some pretty freaky stuff that I wanted to write a story about, but uh I don't know what happened to my dream.
You lost it.
Time to start it back up. Yeah, you got to find it and continue it.
No, but one thing I noticed about myself lately is I don't have much dreams anymore. I used to dream a lot when I was a kid. I mean, younger. I'm sorry, younger.
Yeah, I mean
But
that sounds very symbolic, just like as we lose our like youthfulness, like we like lose our ability to dream,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I
become
know.
old
Or at
and
least,
jaded.
At least we think
or
we don't
remember.
dream.
No,
Yeah,
it's just that hard to remember nowadays.
Yeah.
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 I always wonder about that because like, how do you know if you're like, how do you know if you didn't dream or if you just can't remember it, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe we're always dreaming.
Yeah.
I think we're all dreaming. I think we are dreaming. We just cannot retain it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
going back to your question, like one thing that I've started doing every day now is last year I started doing this thing where every day I'll write down like one, like just a very short, like 1 2 sentence idea
Okay.
for a big two, like DC or Marvel like comic book issue.
Yeah.
And the reason I started doing this is because like I would love to, write for, a big company if I
Yeah.
have the opportunity. But for a long time, or not that long, but like for like, the earlier years, like I just like I wasn't like I don't like passively think about like I like DC Marvel ideas because I feel like it's better to like focus on like your own, like your own IP, your own unique stories,
Yeah.
until you have the opportunity to pitch, right? But
Right.
then I realized like I don't want to be in a situation where like I have the opportunity to pitch and I just like haven't thought about it at all
Okay.
before.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, like just as like a simple exercise or even just like kind of like
Yeah.
a creative warm up for the day, every day I'll like just put down one idea, like no matter how like stupid
Right.
it is. And now I have like I started doing that um like almost 200 days ago. So
Yeah.
now I just have this document that's like my list of like ideas for Marvel and DC, and it's a nice little thing to see that
Right.
grow over time.
Yeah, it's nice to have it's like when parents ask me at conventions like how like how can my kid get into blah blah blah, right? And they see my iPad or they see my Cintiq and my computers and stuff. I tell them don't do that, right? Just tell the kid to draw every day, draw, 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 right? So the same thing with writing, and you're honing your craft every time you write something, a new idea. If that idea could be bad, but you just keep turning that page, like, when I sketch something, I make a mistake, I don't erase, I just flip the page and I just go to the next one and the next one. Um, uh, I'm assuming you're doing the same thing. You're creating your own disciplines and stuff. So okay, so now you have this one idea that you really like. Okay, tell us your process. Do you start fleshing out the story? Do you think ahead, like, oh, I'm gonna do an 8-page story, or do you just write the story first, then work out the detail afterwards?
Let's see. I think it depends. I think there's like two categories
Okay.
of projects. There's the more abstract one where it's just like, more far removed from immediate, production or realization, and that can be like much looser in terms of like, I'll just brainstorm on this, and then like if anything comes of it, then
Right.
that's when I'll like look at the series length. But when it comes to if I'm thinking of like what project am I actually going to try and
Right.
make on my own next, or what am I going to pitch, the length and the format is like actually one of like the first things that I have to think about.
Right.
like for example, when I was pitching stories to EC and Oni Press, like I knew from the beginning, okay, these are going to be like short horror comics that are like, uh, I mean, they're generally like all eight pages at
Yeah.
most. So that's like the parameter that you have to work in
Yep.
from the very beginning. And I mean, that can be helpful too when you have to fit the story in this amount of space.
Right.
So and even aside from pitching, uh, if I'm making something on my own, like I'm usually thinking, okay, like, am I going to try to do this as a 32-page one shot, 24-page, one shot? Is it going to be like a 4-issue miniseries? And from very early on, I have to like see if the idea makes sense to fit into that, like, that amount of space.
Right.
Because otherwise, it's just not practical, right? Like
Right.
it's kind of like, it's kind of like if you're trying to do too much, cram too many panels onto one page, it's gonna fall apart. And
Yeah.
similarly for issues, or series length, like you have to make sure it has enough space. So I
Yeah.
try to make sure I encounter those hurdles as early in the process as possible, rather than
Yeah.
like, being like, have almost done with the script and realizing it's not going to fit into
Right.
the page
I
count.
mean, do you ever do that? Do you overwrite and then you tweak it down later? I mean that's part of the writing process, though. Like let's say I know people out there who write, let's because the comic industry has a little constraint. It's money. Right. Money dictates how many pages you do, how many.
Right.
Right. And that's really what that is. And so getting to that industry itself, there's a lot of like rules and restrictions and stuff like that. So but sometimes do you just like write because you enjoy that process, then you go over it, then you tweak it, and you kind of, like everything we do, you tighten it, right? You know what I mean? Like do you
Yeah,
like,
I'd say that happens. That's more likely to happen in like the brainstorming, like ideation phase, where it's like,
right,
okay, like here are like all the cool ideas I'm gonna throw out there, and then like
right,
let me like take some of this to like put into, the script or the page outline.
right,
By the time I'm doing the outline or the script, it's less likely for me to go like way over what I'm estimating. and
okay,
that's and that's partially because like I'm specifically trying to like, okay, like I'm trying to make like 32-page issue, 24-page issue.
right,
And So I have like a simple list that's like I'll make a column that's like page one, page two, page three, and then I do like a short sentence like, okay, here's what happens on this page,
Right.
and I try to like have that be relatively solid before I script the pages, just
Right.
so that like when I'm scripting, sometimes you never know what might fluctuate a little bit, but because I have the page outline to begin with, usually I'm gonna be like in the ballpark of the length I'm aiming for.
Right. So you're pretty much breaking down each page as a story beat as you go
Right.
along, and then as everything falls in that place. Oh, okay, like that. Now, where did you just where did you learn all this? Did you just um, go to school? Did you just like
I
randomly?
I learned on online text-based role-playing forums. This
Oh,
is
okay.
my origin story. Like, so I don't know if these are like as much of a thing now. Like, probably not. But
Yeah.
when I was a teenager, there would be all these like web forums,
Yep.
and they would have these communities where like people just like, uh, you know, they just write collaboratively, and usually they would be based around like existing fandoms. Like there would be like, like here's like a website where everyone makes like their Pokemon character or their like One Piece character, right? So
Right.
everyone like makes their character and you kind of like tell stories together by like having your characters interact.
Right.
That was my main hobby when I was a teenager. And I wrote like it must have been like hundreds of thousands of words like over the course of of all the years. And
Right.
that was the bulk of my like creative writing like experience, and it was all
Okay.
just like that's obviously not a formal education, but like I like just built up so much experience
Right.
doing random stories and characters. And after that, I studied English literature in college, and after that I took I take classes in screenwriting and such like when I can, because I think
Right.
like we should always be trying to learn and hone our craft when
Right.
possible. But the bulk of the learning, and I think this, goes back to what you were saying about the advice you have for kids too, is
Yeah.
like, so I think there's only so much you can be taught.
Right.
And like both for art and for writing, like it is important to have those resources in terms of like, like
You're
the
fundamental.
the
Yeah.
fundamentals, and you have to
Yeah.
know, like which rule you should kind of know what the rules are, like so that like you should like know when to break them.
Right.
But ultimately, you just have to do it and build the experience,
Yeah.
right? In both in art and writing, like you have to just make do the drafts, like make the same early mistakes that everyone else does, and
Right.
like slowly get better.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know what Substack is that much, but I noticed that a lot of writers go to Substacks. You ever tried that
Yeah,
media?
Substack is another form of they're doing videos and live streams now on there, but before it was just like your own newsletter or your blog, yeah, like that, right? So
Yeah, yeah, I think Substack was one of like the earlier platforms for this, and
yeah,
now there's like like everything else online, it's like everything is like much more like decentralized.
yeah,
So there's like what are some of the other websites like Beehive,
oh yeah,
um, and Button Down is the one I use now actually for my newsletter. But it seems like so whether it's Substack, Button Down, Beehive, Patreon, it's like one of those things that like content creators or like creatives are like supposed to have, kind of
hmm,
like, and it feels a little bit weird sometimes, like because I feel like a lot of creatives want to focus more like on just like the creative part, and not the part that's like promoting your work and giving people regular updates on your life and stuff. But especially as social media becomes more fractured, it's like kind of important for us to have our like our place where people can come and like hear from us if they want to.
right. Yeah, you're the marketing manager. You got to make sure that the wheels churn all the time, right? And
Right.
and there's a lot out there and stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so get okay. So now you got your story down. You are breaking your story beat down. Um, Go through your creative process on let's say you're pitching for EC, a horror comic, or whatever the stuff is. You got idea, you're writing it down, you're breaking your story beats. What are your next step? Do you do the comic format of panel one, blah blah blah? Do you write based on the artist that you're going to be assigned to, or do you write like like you have an idea of an artist, you talk to an artist, now you're writing based on that style? Do you find like like do you like break that down for us, like let's say panel one, do you do prescription, like do you a lot of description? Some artists don't like that, some artists like that, but like break that down. Like, do you talk in your head when you create the character? Like like those little things, the creative process of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
walk through that a little bit. And also, I don't know why my camera, it like always turns blurry, and then if I do this, it's supposed to fix it, but then it goes blurry
There you
again.
Oh,
go.
there
There
you
you
go.
go.
There, you're
But
fine.
yeah,
I think you're not the center. That's why.
Yeah.
Most.
I can actually screen share an example of how I script if that might be
Yeah. Like
interesting.
Sure.
just for anybody in the audience. Hi, hey, Tyler Smith and Ben Compton there. Hey guys.
But yeah, something that I find to be interesting about comic book writing is that the format of comic scripts is much less consistent than screenplays, for example.
Yeah.
So with screenplays, there's a sense of like confidence, or like if if I'm writing a screenplay, like I don't know how how good the creative side of the process might be, but like
Right.
I know that I at least did the format right.
Yeah.
And with comic books, like because like everyone kind of does like their own thing to some extent,
Yeah.
there's like more flexibility, but it's also like you don't know if you're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
because like yeah, like every example you look at is just a little bit different. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up one of my scripts from the Shentu anthology, actually, to
Okay.
just quickly show, because it doesn't hurt to share this. I released these scripts in like the deluxe version of
Yeah.
the anthology as one of the Kickstarter rewards. So this is technically all out there anyway. Just 1 second. Okay. Can I screen share?
There you go.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Maybe we. Oh yeah, okay. I'll try and zoom in a little bit. But yeah, this is just roughly like, and I feel like I'm always trying to like change up my process too, and this is from last year, so it's like the
Yeah.
format is like a little bit outdated, but this is roughly um this is roughly how I do it. So like you said, there's panel one, panel two. I mostly try to keep like every page script to like one document page as much as possible. Um, uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
You're following a screenplay format.
oh
One page is 1 minute of film time, so that's
yeah. I mean that is the rule that was like very like ingrained in me from screenwriting.
yeah, I remember that. Yes. But yeah, just for anybody out there who wants to write comics, there is a format, but you can pretty much be very loose with it. You have your page, then you break down your panels. There's some rules based on panels. You try not to go past 9 panels per page.
Yeah,
And
I've heard that like you want to aim for like
five.
five is I think like the golden number people
Yeah,
usually
five is
say.
a golden number.
Yeah,
Then you have your each panel consists of an action of some sort, right? Or an event, just one event.
yeah. So I mean, I've seen like people say one of the things that like
Yeah,
newer comic book writers struggle with is they try to have like too many actions
yeah.
in one panel, and like I don't know. I feel like I feel like I like am have not been too guilty of that in my scripts. But I don't know. It's always a learning process. For
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, if you have multiple characters in there, they could do certain things at the same time. But if you are just having the one main character doing something, he can't be
Right,
jumping over.
like some things are just impossible to
Yeah,
draw
yeah.
in one
Yeah,
panel.
unless you're doing something like Spider-Man, where the whole page is, Spider-Man's leaping over a building, then he leaps over this,
Yeah,
and this
those are
happens.
cool. Like I've
Yeah,
been trying to write like more of that style of panel recently too, because it's cool when you see them like moving around the panel.
yeah,
Wait a
Uh,
second, guys.
yeah,
My kids used to read these manga. It's all about Go, right?
yeah,
Go players and Go strategies and all that stuff. And when they play, they go ah, I mean, they have placing the pebble in the grid 18 by 18 grid. Somehow could
yeah,
be in action. You know,
yeah.
how do you establish that as a? I guess that's more of a comic artist thing, but does a writer get involved in that kind of layouts?
yeah, I mean, I think this, depends a lot on, the specific writer and artist. Like some, and especially some writers who like also like are artists as well. They'll obviously be more involved in the art side of things and the layouts. For like for me, like if there if there's a layout I have in mind for the page, like I'll include like a little doodle of the page layout on the script page. But I always try to say like, I trust you to know better than me when it comes to page layout. So like this is just a suggestion. But there is one project, my manga, my internet friends. Um, oh, that's awesome, Tyler. Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know. I feel like they don't tell me who the letter is, but yeah, no, your work on your lettering work has been immaculate. So it's been a pleasure to work with you. Um, but what was I? Oh, the layouts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
layout.
for my internet friends, that's one case in which the artist for that series says he said like he prefers for the writer to like supply the layouts for the pages. So for that one, I'm gonna stop screen sharing for a second, and then I'm gonna share again. But for that series, I do the page layouts, and it's always kind of fun to share my little doodles for this, because it's like very embarrassing.
I find that very helpful if a writer can come up and say, here, this is the idea I had, because it gives you more of an insight on what the writer's thinking. Because sometimes when you do get a script, right, you are reading it, then you're, as an artist, you see the layout a little different than what it
Right.
is. But if the writer comes up and said, hey, this is going to be my layout, there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with that. It's just that the artist, when he takes over, this is where they do the perspective, this is where they do the changes, this is where, right, then, because they have to follow sequences and stuff, things has to flow a certain way. But again, this helps out a lot. This is great. This is
Yeah, I mean, so that's why I always say like, here's like a starting point for you to use, with the
yeah,
layout, and so you can kind of visualize with the script too. But
yeah,
I always say like please, like, you know im- please do like improve upon this in this
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed you put word balloons in, which is fantastic, right?
Yeah, I don't always like for this one I did, but
Yeah.
I do try to be like mindful of the dialogue
The
space,
whole process. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean this is just my like silly little stick figure layouts. This is my
Wow,
splash page.
splash page.
um yeah, I mean this it's fun. Because it's like even like this like the barest minimum amount, but it makes me feel like I'm like at least a little bit involved in the art
Yeah.
process for this project. So um
You trying to give a least amount of pressure to others, right?
yeah, so that no matter what they come up with is obviously gonna look way
Right.
better than this. So
So now that you got your script all done, you tweaked everything, you checked everything to an extent, you hand it over to the artist. Do then the artist goes off, they come back with the pages. Do you start let's say the artist come back and might make a few changes? Does that like do you expect that, or because I know certain writers don't like that kind of feedback, that kind of stuff. Do
oh,
you?
to what
Yeah.
when the artist gives input on the
Yeah,
script.
well, they come back with the pages or the layouts and stuff like that when you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I have no issue with that. I always encourage them to, make it a conversation, a collaboration between us. And I've
Right.
actually found that in my like fairly limited experience so far, the artists I've worked with, like most of them have been like more reluctant to propose changes. And I don't know if it's because like I feel like you never know, like some writers might say, "Oh, you can suggest stuff," but then they might like get
Yeah.
kind of sensitive about it. So
Right.
if I was an artist, I would kind of feel like a little bit, I would maybe be a little bit hesitant to like
Right.
to propose changes. So I understand, but like as the perspective of the writer, I do try to say like, um, I want to hear your ideas,
Mhm.
and if there's something that like I feel we shouldn't budge on because it's important to the story or whatever, then obviously I will say that.
Right.
But I want to have the conversation, and I want you as the artist to have your creative input on the story too, because it's like you're not like my you know minion who's like creating the story. Even if I'm like technically the boss, if I'm like the one
Yeah.
hiring the artist,
Yeah.
but I want it to be something that we're both creatively involved in. So if the writer or if the artist has suggestions for things to change, then I'm all for it.
Right. Does I mean you do get if things do change a little bit. I mean it's always somehow either good or sometimes it's bad. Right, it changes the story, but the idea is I think if an artist comes back with feedback, it's more of they're delved into the story itself, right? They're vested in it, and it's kind of nice to see that. That's how I see that, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah,
that's
yeah,
absolutely how I see it. Like it
yeah,
makes me like it's very flattering actually in that way, because it makes like you said, it makes it feel like they're like engaged and invested in the story.
yeah,
Whereas like if they don't care, if they're just if they just want the paycheck, and that's totally fine too.
yeah,
But like then they're not as likely to like give their input on the story as well. So when I when my artists say like, oh, like, wouldn't it be cool if we did it more like this, or like what if we add this, like that,
right,
like makes me very happy as a creator, because it makes me feel like they're like you know they're getting excited for the story too.
right. So okay, so now that you got the artwork back and stuff like that, now you're going through the editing process. You're going through the panels. You're picturing where the word balloon's going to be and all that stuff. Um, Tell us your process of editing those pages, I guess, or sequences, or
Yeah, yeah. So I try to like minimize like how many like how many notes I give.
Mhm.
I think from the very beginning, I would say I was not someone who was like a control freak or like giving too many notes. But earlier on, I did feel the pressure of like I have to like give some notes or else it like looks and feels like I'm like it kind of looks and feels like I don't care or I'm like if
Right.
I'm being lazy. But pretty like shortly into that, I kind of realized like, you know what, like sometimes like or a lot of the time like the artist just like hits it out of the park, you know, and
Yeah.
when they do that, like all you need to say is like, you know, great job, let's go on to the next page.
Right.
And so I try to I'm at the point now where like even if something is like not like entirely how I envisioned it, if it's working just as well but in a different way, then I say like, okay, sure, let's go with it. You know, if
Right.
it's something that's like important, then like I'll always say like, hey, actually, like I was thinking more like this or whatever, or maybe it would be a little bit stronger if we do it like that. Like I'll always give those notes, but I try to be cautious of like not you know giving notes for the sake of like just to have something to say. And
Yeah.
also if it's a minor detail, like it's like you have to consider like the artist, you know, you only have so much budget and time and the artist only has so much bandwidth. So like do you like do we really need to like change this small detail or like or should we just like get on with it? You
Right.
know? So that's always like
Right.
the you know the balance of the considerations. So I say like when it comes to editing approach, I try to be more on the side of like you know, just uh, if it works, it works, and you know, if not, then you know, we'll try and address it.
Right. Okay. Tell us. Just to veer off a little bit. Tell us about your favorite genre that you write to, that you always gravitate towards, and why.
Favorite
Yeah.
genre? Okay, you know what's funny about this is that this question was a lot easier to answer what in screenwriting context because even when I was screenwriting, like, and before I was writing comics, I feel like I would like love like comic book stories so much that I would just tell people, oh yeah, like the you know the TV pilots and the movies I'm writing, they're like kind of like you know they're like comic book manga like energy, you know,
Right.
like genre, anime vibes, like all that good stuff. But like the problem is that I can't say that like in comics because then I'd just be saying, you know, I'm writing like comics that are like comic books and that just
Yeah.
like is completely redundant. So but when it comes to comics, I would say I do enjoy genre elements, like whether that's like sci-fi or fantasy. Like I usually like if there's like a little like if it's not like a completely grounded story. um and I like having a little sweet spot of genre where I usually don't go too deep into like very hard sci-fi or high fantasy with like you know like the elves and dwarves and all that.
Right.
But I like when there's like you know like some like just like you know like a nice little bit of genre to spice it up. Um and you know I like battle shonen stories, like you know like Demon Slayer and Chainsaw Man,
Mhm.
Jujutsu Kaisen. That stuff has been very popular recently. I love stuff that's in that space. And recently I've been on a horror kick, and this is partially because of EC and Oni Press. Just like the paid gigs I've gotten have been horror.
Yeah.
It's a little funny to me that like from the perspective of the direct market, like
Hmm.
my one credit and you know the next one I have coming out, it's horror. So like if you don't know me at all and you've only seen my direct market stuff, I only write horror.
Right.
And that's funny because it's like to me that's not the only thing I'm interested in.
Right.
But also because I've had you know more opportunities to do horror recently, I feel like
Yeah.
I've also been starting to enjoy it more and more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just recently I've been really enjoying horror.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, if Marvel comes up to you and you go, "Hey, you're doing X-Men," you're gonna do the
Yeah,
X-Men, right?
exactly. If Marvel says that, then like then X-Men's my favorite franchise. I've been a lifelong fan, like
That's right.
all that stuff, right? And if you know DC comes to me like with I don't know like Teen Titans,
Batman, yeah,
then yeah, Teen Titans my favorite franchise, like lifelong fan and
that's
all
right.
that, right? But like, and it wouldn't. It's not even. I mean it's not true if you go like too far with the exaggeration, which like
Right,
you know is not something that I would do seriously. But I think I don't know with like a lot of different IPs, like you can find something you love about it, and you really like hone in like
right.
on that aspect of it. So um, I, there's I mean there's so many IPs out there. I think there's a good number that like I wouldn't be a good fit for. And honestly, there is stuff that like if it was offered to me and I just like didn't feel confident in it, I would say so. But there's also um like I enjoy a pretty like wide variety of characters and genres and all that. So I think for
Right.
quite a bit of stuff I would,
if
you know, find
if
something to
some
love about it.
if someone asks you to write a detective story week in and week out, would you able to come up with all these problem solving and riddles and how or a little twist at the end? Are you able to do that without
I think so. I mean, so one of my series, Princess Royale, it's like this chaotic, you know, battle royale princess characters, but there's a pretty like central like murder mystery element to it as well that kicks off the story. So I do have some experience with that sort of, you know, like mystery. Like it's not really a detective story, but you know, it's just kind of in the ballpark. And I I certainly enjoy the genre, like as
Mhm.
you know, as a fan, like it's even the like the more uh ridiculous stuff, like you know, the Knives Out story of mystery, where it's like
Right.
comedically convoluted. So eh, stories like that, like I think you know that they take more. They're going to take more time to like make sure everything lines up correctly than some other genres. But I'd say it's a challenge that I'd be up for.
Yeah, I mean, do you like right now we're at a point where we're not going to turn down any gigs if somebody gives us the opportunity to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're mercenaries.
yeah, we're mercenaries and stuff like that. But do you find it more of a challenge, or do you find it more of a hindrance when it comes to, let's say, your if you have to write something outside your wheelhouse, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Do you struggle with that, or do you find ways to, or or do you just gonna like plow ahead and that's gonna be a notch on my belt? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
I think I would be intimidated for sure. Like I
Yeah.
would, you know, I would take the opportunity because I think like especially if you want to I don't know if you want to be working in comics, like you need to have like good range, right? And so
Okay.
it's better to get out of your comfort zone sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I would want to do it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. And that would also be why I would want to do it,
Right.
you know? Like I'm so something that really like amazes me is when I see writers who are like they when they get like very deep, like when they tell a story that's like very like deeply set in like some like cultural space or like you know like period of ancient history that like they obviously had to do a lot of research for, but
Yeah.
like they like tell the story with such confidence that like you know it the whole thing you know is executed very smoothly. I have just a lot of respect for writers and creators who are able to dive into something that's like outside of their you know existing area of expertise, and they become experts in that thing in the process, right?
Right.
And
Is that something you would recommend a new writer or somebody who wants to?
I don't know if I would recommend. I mean, I don't know if I would recommend it for like an
Or
initial project, because something else, uh, another like phrase of advice that people give out is to write what you know.
yeah.
Um, and I think that if it's not a gig being offered to you, like it is just like much more efficient to lean a bit closer to something that like you're knowledgeable about and passionate about already. Like if I was offered, the gig to write a story that's set in like 13th century England, I would have to like do a lot of research into that, and
Right.
I would do it. But if I'm writing, my own story of my own accord, it just like is, unless I have an amazing idea that only makes sense in 13th century England, it just makes sense to like go with something that I'm a little bit more familiar with. Like,
Right.
for example, my manga series, My Internet Friends, a lot of it revolves around like 2000s internet nostalgia and like memes from the 2000s.
Yeah.
And this is something that like I like don't have to do a lot of research for, because like I just the reason I'm telling the story is because I like remember a lot of that stuff and I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
So, but like if I wasn't already familiar with it,
Hmm.
then I think the process of like researching like old internet memes would be like much more like taxing
Tedious.
and
Yeah.
tedious and weird to do. So it's like if that's not something you don't already like know about, and like unfortunately I already know too much about like old memes, then I don't know if I'd recommend it. But I think it's good to like to find something that like about that like maybe is not what everyone knows. It's like your what weird little niche interest,
Yeah.
and to build a story around that, right? Because that like has a lot of your like
Your
it will
passion too. Yeah.
inherently have a lot of your unique passions,
Yeah.
and that always comes through in
Comes through on
storytelling.
your writing and in your storytelling. Okay, so that is your whole process of creating the process. Let's talk about being a marketeer,
Oh
Kickstarter.
yeah, that's the hard part.
So yeah, let's break it down to some of these people out there who want to start a comic, right? So you wanted to do an anthology, so talk about your humps and stuff, like somebody like an artist who wasn't available and dropped out, like you know what I mean? Because I got sick and all this other stuff. So go through that roller coaster of I'm surprised you still got all your hair, right?
Yeah, I mean, doing an anthology as a first Kickstarter was definitely a lot to take on. I don't know if I would recommend that, because it was
Yeah,
like working with so many different collaborators at once, rather than like, I guess if you kickstart a project which is like one artist or a smaller creative team, it's just like fewer moving pieces.
right,
But I mean, I wanted to do an anthology like specifically so I would get like more experience, like
right,
communicating with and working with different artists. But going, just the process of making and funding a comic through crowdfunding and delivering it. I think the best approach that people recommend is to have, first of all, like have as much of the comic done as possible, like
that
before
is,
before
yeah,
you crowdfund. And this is kind of like it's a little bit unique to comics, I feel, because like in most other things that you crowdfund, you like absolutely need the money to start making the thing, like
that's
if you're
right,
like crowdfunding for a film, like you cannot like gather the money first and then make it and then crowdfund it. That just like
yeah,
is not viable. But because the costs for comics, like while still expensive, are just like lower across the board, it is a bit more viable to like have like at least some of the comic done before you you kickstart it. And if you can do that, like that just makes everything so much smoother. For Chentu Memories of Spring, I think I had like the majority of the book. Yeah, I had the majority of the book done before I did the Kickstarter campaign, and I still like was almost late on delivering because like the very last few stories that had to be finished ended up like dragging on for a little bit. And I think that is like that really goes to show like why you should have the book almost done before you crowdfund. Because if you're like if you still have to make most of the book, like you just don't know what delays are going to happen. And
Right.
if if it takes you a long time to fulfill, it's going to be hanging over you
Oh yeah.
for months or years, and it's going to be a very unpleasant process. So I think like as much as possible, it's good to have the book done or like in progress before you crowdfund, and that will help the campaign too, because like the more pages you can show like as part of the campaign page, the better your project will look too, and the more confidence that
How,
people will have in it.
how much is a typical project to make a I mean, you say it's how much just typical comic book costs to make it through the
Just do the
uh
one shot. Don't do the anthology. Just do the
yeah,
Yeah,
one.
just
yeah,
the
don't.
one shot, like what's the one
Well,
shot?
if you do, so I mean, obviously this varies like a huge amount depending on the individual artist's page rate. But I think if you're in the position of if you're the writer, and you're hiring the art team and maybe the letterer to come on board the project as well. um I think like a single issue is probably going to be like between 3,000 and $5,000.
Now,
uh
let's say I could afford a $5,000. Why do I need a Kickstarter?
so for comics, I think a lot of the value of crowdfunding comics is that you're essentially using it as your sales platform. So because like to so many people like who like read indie comics, like Kickstarter is essentially the main storefront through which they like discover these comics and buy them. So even if you don't technically need other people to crowdfund you, which you don't if you're making the book ahead of time, crowdfunding, whether it's through Kickstarter or another platform, is still one of the best ways to just get that visibility on your project and get it in front of people who like otherwise like would not even
Never
know it
see it.
exists.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you use the same comic books to Kickstarter and some other crowdfund all at the same time?
what do you mean?
I mean, if I'm
Like
starting a
like crowdfund something on multiple platforms,
yeah,
or
yeah. Well,
so
there's more than one platform, right? For as a
yeah. I mean, it would be quite strange to do
It's a
the
lot of work
campaigns
too.
like simultaneously, because you would kind of be like competing with yourself across different platforms. But something that people do is like I know like some people like if they have like an unsuccessful campaign, sometimes they'll try again like on a different platform. Or something that you can do is like you crowdfund issue one of your comic, and then when you're crowdfunding issue two, like you still have issue one available as like an add-on reward or whatever, right? So it's almost like you have like another campaign in which that first issue is available again, but it's just like in conjunction with the new issue of the series as well.
Yeah. The idea, Norman, is not to spread yourself out. Kickstarter is the number one go to for indie comics because they've been there first. They you know everybody who goes to Kickstarter knows exactly what Kickstarter is.
It's just something that really snowballs itself, right? Like with
Yes.
anything that becomes the most popular, like like Amazon as
Yeah.
like the e-commerce platform, like once something is the most popular, it just like gains more and more steam, and then like
Yeah,
that just like draws even more traffic and eyes to it. So
yeah. It becomes
um,
harder as a creator for Alan to first. It's easier for him just to say, "Hey, I'm on Kickstarter." People know exactly where Kickstarter is. If you
Mm.
show up and go, "Hey, it's on my so and so," this other stuff, nobody knows what it is, right? Nobody knows if they can trust it, and all this other stuff. So you have that issue, and like Alan said, you are spreading yourself really thin,
I mean,
right?
for
right,
instance, let's
Yeah.
say I spent $5,000 to make a book, right?
Yep.
I mean, why couldn't I just put on Amazon and sell it through them?
Well, the thing is, if you do put it on, you can spend $5,000 on your book. It's just that you're going to end up with $5,000 with a book. Now you got to sell it. With Kickstarter, people are coming. They once they put down their money, they're getting a book. You have an audience now. You know how many people are purchasing that book, right?
right, and
There
and
you
and
go.
I
Why
mean,
not both? Why not both then? Yeah.
yeah,
Why not?
I mean,
Yeah,
you can put your book on Amazon or your own like I have a Shopify store that I put my stuff on as well, and pretty frequently people do put stuff on their store, or they'll table at conventions after the campaign. But the value of Kickstarter or crowdfunding is that you have that initial time limited window where like it kind of like it builds hype and momentum to funnel people toward like, okay, we need to reach like this goal within this amount of time. um you it's a good way of just like, yeah, building that initial momentum, and then afterward you have that like longer tail sales of like your own web store or whatever. But
yeah,
if you only do that from the beginning, then you're missing out on that period of like accelerated hype and attention when you're campaigning for something, right?
right.
Like you can just put it on your store to begin with, but like it's unless you're incredibly established already, like I think you're essentially making it like needlessly hard for yourself to get attention.
Yeah, I find that if I get a book from, let's say I do something, I get some samples and stuff like that, I find it really hard to sell at convention, right? And let's say you do Nam, and let's say we do spend $5,000 of our own money, right? We're gonna end up with a book, and we don't know if it's gonna sell or not. We're pitching, we're doing that. I believe having like a crowdfunding site helps with that, right? And that way you actually know who the audience are, and you can actually say, oh, I want to pitch the second issue and the third issues and stuff like that. So now you go ahead. Um, at the very beginning, before Kickstarter, a lot of, like, for example, Niobe Comics, right? He'd write the story, he would try to pitch it to Antarctic Press, and they have to love it. They got to bring it in, right? So there's always a gatekeeping that you have to do. But at the same time, if you do decide to publish your own book, it's a lot harder because now you're marketing a lot more. With Kickstarter, it kind of helps. There's there's a place that people know to go to, right? So yeah, like Alan, getting back to the stuff, like when let's say you did create that one shot, right? Now you're in that space, right? Yeah, you recommend that you should get all the book done and all the stuff. That's what I would recommend too, as a super backer at the time. I always, I got stung so many times where I back a book, and it's like 3 years later the book arrived and I forgot all about it, right?
Right.
that kind of stuff, right? Or the campaign just fizzles out and you just don't know what happened, right?
Yeah, because honestly,
Yeah,
I feel that even when even when a Kickstarter book is delivered like on time,
yeah,
like you usually like forget about it a little bit, like
yeah,
between when you backed and when you received it, right?
yeah,
So it's like kind of it's like bad enough like then, like in the best of circumstances,
right.
that you have to like remember your like initial excitement for this book of the time when you backed it. So it's obviously far worse when the book comes like years later, or if at all, and you have to like remember like what this thing even is. And that's also all the more reason why like whatever you can do to like have that book done like in advance, so you can like make sure you can deliver it in a timely manner. It's so important to be able
Right.
to do that.
Do you allocate time and like any business now it becomes a business. This is what you're doing, right? This is how you think about it. Like now you have to allocate time for social media, for marketing, for that kind of stuff.
The question of thinking it as a business is interesting. I think something I've seen discourse about
Okay.
is whether or not or whether indie comic creation is something you should consider to be a hobby rather than say your profession. Because I think for some people it is like more like insulting or like discouraging to like to be told like, oh, like this is just your hobby, right?
Yeah.
And so I would certainly never say to someone else like, you're just a hobbyist. But when it comes to thinking about what I'm doing in terms of indie comics, in a way it like lowers the pressure in a way to think of it as a hobby, like as a hobby that I'm in the process of turning into a career.
Right.
Because honestly, I think the financials of like making indie comics, especially for your first ones, in which it's like almost certain that you're like going negative, like on those first indie comics, right?
Yeah.
And you can think of it as like an investment in your business. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
But for me, like if I think of it as like, oh, this is something that I'm like doing it like as a hobby, then it just doesn't feel like I'm in as much of an immediate like battle to like break even or like make a profit, right? Because
Right.
then it's like even if I'm like slightly negative on this, like I still got all like the value and the joy of like making a comic. And that, I don't know, that like sounds a little bit more like a hobby than a business at that stage. But yeah, it's I put a lot of time and effort and like way too much money into all of this because I do take it seriously and I want to do it more of it. But I also I kind of think of it as a hobby at the same time too, because that helps me like hold on to like the fun and the joy and passion of it all at the same
Yeah.
time.
I understand that, but like as a professional artist, when I sign a contract, I gotta follow deadline.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? If I wanna, you know what I mean? So I gotta treat it like
yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta you have that discipline in
That's
there.
that's how I felt when I got the first paid gig, my first paid writing work with Oni Press for the EC comic.
Right.
It was like I like sat up, I like leaned forward in my chair, because it was like
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's a very different type of pressure, which
Yeah.
was it was scary and interesting because it was like doing this like to get paid. That was like the dream, but like once you sign the contract, you get paid, you have to deliver.
Yeah.
Like it just suddenly feels so much scarier because
Yeah.
it made me realize that like all the times before that I was like scared that my work wouldn't be good, like none of those times like really mattered in the same way, right?
Okay.
Because it was like if people didn't uh like if people didn't like Shentu, it like maybe like at worst I would feel bad about it, but like it
Right.
just like didn't really matter. But when you're being paid by a publisher to do the work, like it feels more consequential to
Yep.
to disappoint them or like to the direct market audiences who are going to be reading the comic.
Right.
And so it just feels like all of a sudden the stakes are that much higher.
Yeah.
And the bright side of that is that I feel like that like made me feel less stressed about doing my own indie stuff,
Yeah.
because I still want everything to be as good as possible, but it's just not, the stakes aren't the same when it's like when no one is paying me to do the work, you know.
Right. Yeah, like I would recommend to have that skill set to treat even if it's a hobby, and let's say you are doing conventions and stuff like that, treat it some professionalism in it, right? It adds to that skill set for you. Like, like for example, like your pitch, right? Like, how do you, when you first did your pitch, were you nervous? Were you, like,
Yeah, everything is so
yeah,
terrifying the
yeah,
first time around,
yeah,
and then the second time around, like everything, like it's crazy how big the difference is, like between the first and second times you have an experience. I think like
right,
every stage of everything I've done in comics and in life, like the first time is I'm completely terrified,
yeah,
and then the second time is like, oh, like I've done this at least like one time before, like with the EC comics, which Tyler mentioned in the chat. Like the
yeah,
first time I was like really really scared and nervous, and then the second time it's like I still, it's still a little bit scary, but like
mhm,
it's not the first time anymore, and
right.
that makes a big difference.
Right. What is your um recommendation, or like, for young writer who wants to get, let's say they want to pitch to somewhere, right? Do are they, like, do you need to have all that skill set behind you? You have to have that confident, that kind of stuff. Like, walk your walk through your first process of pitching to EC. Were you expecting, like, and other places? Your experience. What happens if you got rejected? That kind of stuff.
So this is advice specifically for
For somebody
pitching.
starting out, yeah, somebody starting out who wants to do this.
Yeah, I think Uh, first of all, like for pitching comics specifically, I think it's going to be an uphill battle unless
Hmm.
you have some work to show already. So even if it's your first time pitching, it will help a tremendous amount. Whether you're a writer or an artist, if you have like your like self-published thing first, and you can say like, hey, like I've already like done this before. You can look at it. Here's the proof. That I feel like that's almost like a necessary first step to the pitching process. One exception might be if you're like an established creator, like in another medium, or if you're
Yeah.
just like a celebrity in some way. Like if you're, it's like if you're like
Yeah.
a novelist or a screenwriter, like maybe you can pitch a comic without having done a comic before. But
Right.
if not, um, you have to have something to show initially. And beyond that, what I would recommend is, uh, I mean, I don't have that much experience pitching as a whole, but like from the limited experience I've had, I think if you're in a position to like tailor the pitch to the audience as much as possible, that's, or like as in like the specific person who's going to be receiving the pitch,
Hmm.
um, that's very helpful, both in terms of like what you're actually pitching and how you're delivering it. So it's like uh, if you know it, if you've done your research on the editor and you know they love like westerns, they love like cowboy stories, then like
Hmm.
it like stands to reason that like you would have better odds like pitching them like a cowboy story, right?
Right.
And that's not, and you shouldn't do that if you don't also like cowboy stories,
Yeah.
because you're gonna put yourself in a bad position if it's not something you actually care about, and you like somehow like get a pitch accepted, like that's just gonna be a disaster, right? But I think what you have to do is find the overlap between something you're passionate about and something that the editor is passionate about, or something that like makes sense for like the publisher or the brand, or whatever, right? And you go in with that common ground, um, and that is going to be that certainly helps your chances of success rather than like pitching. I mean, sometimes you can just like take a shot in the dark, see if this
That
like
happens.
cool unique idea you had like lands or not.
Right.
But
Do you have
if
that fear of failure, that rejection that you come back, and what do you do with that? Let's say if you do get that.
hmm,
I know you've done this a lot, like, write, like writing a lot? Do you like let's put it that way. Let's put it this way. When you write something, um should you have that fear to put it out? Are you afraid to put it out? Or you know what I mean? Like when I first drew some stuff, I was really afraid of posting it on social media. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I know what you mean. I actually I felt this recently with my that first EC comic that went out in April in Cruel Universe
Yeah.
in this issue actually because before that happened I would have said no, I don't really. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would have said no, I don't really feel that fear. Or I would have said like I've like put so much stuff out into the world at this point that like I like am kind of over it.
Right.
But when Cruel Universe went out, like that was like suddenly my work was going to be seen by like m- so many more people than before, and it was going to be like strangers, not like my mom and my friends who are like going to be like
Yeah. What
nice.
issue was that, anyways, Alan? I gotta go. Cruel Universe, is that
Yeah, Cruel,
one
Cruel Universe number 9. I
number
have a
9? Okay, I gotta
fun
go look for it.
fun story that's like do you know Animal Crossing, like
Yeah.
the video game?
Yeah.
So it's like that vibe, but it's a horror story.
Right.
So I like to say it's Animal Crossing gone wrong. It's like
Right.
there's a character who like mistreats the NPCs in her video game world, and then they kind of
Right.
like take
Uh,
revenge on
I'm gonna
her.
hit my LCS this Sunday, so I'll definitely look for it. I can't wait. Yeah,
But
like for example, do you use the do you strive with that? I mean, like as an artist, we try to grow. Like if I'm so insulated, I don't want to show my stuff. There's no point of being an artist. That's what I feel, right? You got
right,
to
well, but
expose it.
I was
Yeah,
saying like with this story, like
yeah,
all of a sudden, like I was like, I think like the day before, this was, gonna go out in stores everywhere. I
yeah,
did feel very nervous,
yeah,
because even though I thought I was like, past it at that point, like when it's just like when when you're about to like go on stage,
yeah,
it is terrifying. I did I took an improv class a few years ago as kind of a way to like just train,
yeah,
my social anxiety and all that. And when I did that, and like when I went up on stage, it was like it was fine. I feel like I kind of actually like blacked out until like after the experience. But this by far the scariest part was like waiting to go up on stage, because when you're
yeah,
like about to go into it, and all you can do is like wait and like stress about it. That's terrifying. And it was the
yeah.
same thing before Cruel Universe went out, and all I could do is worry about what if everyone hates it.
Right,
And I don't know what there is to do about that fear except to like wait for it to pass.
right.
you know
Yeah.
um
I guess you have to take that chance, right? I mean, yeah,
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 it depends because there's some stuff where, especially for individual projects, like if it's something that you wrote or you drew for yourself, like you don't need to share that like with the world if you don't want to, right?
yeah,
But if it is your goal to like make a career out of this, or like if you do want people to see it, then that is something that like you kind of like have to do,
right.
right? And um at yeah, like at that point, I don't know like what you can do besides like take the leap, jump into the
Yeah,
pool. And it's hard. Like I don't think anyone should diminish that because it's one of the most vulnerable things you can do to like take this weird stuff that was like inside you, your personal like interests and passions, and put that out into the world. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, you just got to do it, I suppose. It's
yeah. I guess that's something, because for you had to do it, and that's how you got your EC gig and you got your others that's coming on. I mean, if you don't take that chance, right, you're never gonna know. I guess.
Yeah, and for me, something that helped with this specifically
Yeah.
is my roots in like those role playing forums.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, because that was like automatically public,
Yep.
for that, like it wasn't a question of like taking the thing I'd written and putting it online, but rather the process itself was something that was already happening in a visible public forum. I think because that was my like origin in writing, that like helped me a little bit with
Right.
when I'm with putting my work out there later on, just because I already had that experience of like random strangers seeing what I was doing.
That's great. That's awesome. Right?
Yes, that's how my teenage experience came in.
That's right. Your villain story, I
Yeah.
guess. Hey, like okay, so Nauman's gone for a little bit there. So going forward, what projects you are working on or you'd like to see? You know what I mean yourself. I think we're running a little bit long, um, but going forward, are you working on anything new? What are your goals like to happen? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have a couple more short projects in the works with EC and Oni. One of which has been solicited for July. It's going to be in Catacomb of Torment, number 13,
Oh yeah,
lettered by Tyler Smith. But so that's what's immediately coming out. I'm trying to get more opportunities to work with publishers if I can. And in the meantime, my most consistent self-published work is that manga series, My Internet Friends. That is something that's like my way of like regularly outputting something into the world. It updates like either monthly or bi-monthly usually, and it's entirely free to read online. Maybe we'll
yeah. Yeah, we'll get Nauman to put it
Yeah, we'll
in the
we'll put
description.
it in the video description and
Yeah,
all that. And I have the link which I can quickly put into chat myself if
yeah,
anyone wants to check that out. But oh, actually, I don't know if I can do this right now. We'll put it in the video description. Or also, it's just my internet friends manga. It's very easy to Google. That's my series about it's set in the near future, and it's after the internet has become obsolete, and you have these misfits who go into the ruins of the internet, and they encounter like this like ancient internet stuff and like memes that have mutated into monsters and that sort of thing. And so it's my fun, like wacky, weird sci-fi horror comedy series. It's like kind of my space where I just do my thing with an artist, Dr. Mori, who's amazing. Um, so yeah, that's the like that's what I have like consistently going on,
right.
and I'm working on some more projects that are like a little bit like more like under wraps for now. Hopefully, they'll see the light of day, whether it's through self-publishing or through publishers, um, in the coming months. But for now, oh, my
There you go.
cat just jumped onto the desk again. Yeah, but my internet friends is the main current ongoing series.
Right. You're publishing on your own domain, or is that
So that is it's on a couple different manga hosting platforms.
okay?
The main one is MangaDex, and this is something that's like convenient about manga compared to Western comics, I think, where Western comic platforms are like a little bit more scattered. There's
Yeah,
like global comics and some others, but I feel like it's not as normalized to read comics online,
yeah,
so like digital comics are just like a little bit more niche, but people are very used to reading manga online.
yeah. My
So
daughter's into webtoon, right? I mean, that's where she
yeah,
gets a
so
lot of
yeah,
this.
webtoons
Yeah,
or MangaDex and all these
manga
platforms,
decks. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, they're like more like mainstream in a
Hmm.
way, like as like websites that you go to read stuff. So it's cool to be able to just like upload and publish to
Right.
those platforms as well.
We got a little bit of time here. I think Norman will I have to message him or something like that. Talk about your experience of writing manga for these platforms. For anybody who doesn't know, it is a full scroll. You know what I mean. It's like, how do you break the episodes down? How do
Yeah.
you?
So my manga is actually it's not webtoon format.
Right.
It is like standard manga format. So it's like still like pages and panels.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So I actually I would love to explore like the scrolling webtoon format eventually, but that's not something I have experience with right now.
Oh, okay, okay. But so you're still writing pages and stuff like that. What are your experience on readerships? Do you find it a lot of exposures for that? Do you do a lot of
I've had better luck w- with marketing this than my comics. I think part
yeah,
of it, okay, like the number one thing is definitely that it's free to read, like as
yeah,
opposed to other things. So like that, is going to make a world of difference.
right,
Um, but beyond that, like I really think reading manga online is like, or reading like manga, like random manga series is just more normalized than like reading like Western comic series.
yeah,
Like I think manga readers, like very, broadly speaking, are more open to like exploring new series than like Western comics readers.
yeah,
And who knows why that is, but I've I've found that with my internet friends, it's been a little bit easier to promote than some of my other stuff. And of course, I'd always love for to get a bit more exposure for more people to see it. But sometimes I'm also like pleasantly surprised by like how much visibility this has gotten already just from random strangers online.
yeah. Which is, I'm assuming it's really nice because sometimes they will come to your Kickstarter or
Yeah, and I mean that's so my internet friends, like this is being like it's completely free to read, so like but I'm paying the artist, so it is like a pretty significant like money drain like
yeah,
monthly for me at the moment. And I do it like for love of the game essentially, because like I like it is my passion project that I want to like put out into the world. But also, I mean, there is the hope that like anything we're doing is like building portfolio, it's building experience, and hopefully building a readership as well. So like hopefully there will be some payoff eventually in terms of just like people stumbling upon it and maybe checking out some
check
of
it
my
out.
other
Yeah.
work as
Well,
well.
yeah, manga is a $1 billion business.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it's taking over.
It's a global thing, right? It's a global thing. I mean, talk to my daughters; both of them are now reading manga instead of Western comics, right?
Yeah.
The thing with Western comic is so boxed in now that that's the issue. That's what I feel like, and for me, I'm a big huge proponent of indie comics, right? That's my thing. But one day I'd love to draw for Marvel and DC
Yeah.
and all the other stuff. But I'm okay with the manga industry because at least the kids are picking up books, right?
Right.
From that side. And besides, it's free. And at the end of it, too, is when you finish that series, you can, publish it as a, trade paperback. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I am looking I am looking to do a physical collection of the first volume of the
right.
first 7 chapters or so. And obviously like that is something that I would, you know,
Yeah.
would be charging for.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can put it on Amazon for print on demand and whatever the other platforms are for too, which is kind of, you know what I mean? It's passive, right? Hopefully, I'll
yeah,
pay for that kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll get Nauman to put that on there. Let's see. Any last tip or for aspiring writers to that you have who wants to get into this kind of like don't get into it.
Yeah, run while you can. No, I
Right?
mean, so the advice that like I don't want to give it because it's like what everyone says, but it also is important. And it's just that you just have to start doing it. And this is very true in comics where like you can't you might be nervous about n- not being good enough yet or whatever, and it is scary to make stuff, but the best way to learn and to move forward is to do it. This is
That's right, Clay Mallon's right.
a buff rabbit. I picked this up at a convention a few months ago. Now it's my emotional support buff rabbit set. Yeah, I mean, like just talking to Loke about, feeling, nervous about putting work out into the world and all that. But when I get scared, I just look at my buff rabbit, and
Yeah.
he gives me strength. Um, but yeah, just in terms of advice, I'd say like even though it's what everyone says, the most important thing is to start building experience. One page or one panel at a time.
Yeah, one setting at a time in in that case. All right. Yeah, I guess that's it. Like, how do we get Naman back here?
Yeah, he said he had to go. I think we can wrap up. I don't know if like
I don't
I
know
don't
how
know if
this
we
works.
can end the stream, but let me
Yeah.
try to message him.
All
Um,
right.
but
Thank
you
you
think
everybody for jumping in. Yeah, I don't know
yeah,
what the process is here is.
yeah, I'm
I
trying
don't
to
control
message
this.
him. But yeah, thank you
Let's,
guys for, coming to
yeah.
hang out and chat, and thank you as well, Loke and Naman for,
Oh yeah.
taking the time to
Before
chat with
you
me.
take off, where can people find you? We'll make sure we'll put that in the show note. If they,
Yeah, this will also be in the description, but
yeah,
my uh my Instagram is Wow Ausla, which is like a little bit confusing. It's WOWOWSLA, and it will be in the description, so don't worry too much about it. Um, but on most social media, like I'm Alan York Wu, my full name. So if you search that, that'll usually like take you to everything else as well. I'm most active on Instagram and Blue Sky these days, and I'm always happy to connect with other creatives and just people in the community. So feel free to reach out.
I think that's it. All right. Thanks everybody for jumping in. Make sure you definitely follow Alan here. Take a look at that stuff. I guess link. We'll provide links to some of his stuff. You can actually. Can you get some of the books still? Is that on Kickstarter you can purchase, or do you? Um,
So I have a web store, but it's like kind of in shambles right now. So it's
okay.
a little bit difficult to to get my stuff like online right now. I try to I'm trying to be more active in going to conventions, and I post on social media, the ones I'm going to
Right.
be at. So
If
right
somebody is
now,
interested, so the best way right now is maybe reach out on Instagram, and you'll they can grab.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say that that's probably
Okay.
the easiest way to just hit me up
Right.
directly.
Yeah. So you can get some of the books are fantastic, guys. Get the anthology for sure. Then if you can, run out and get the EC Catacomb of Horror. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
The
So
number
the issue that came out already is Cruel Universe number
World
9,
Universe. There you go. Yeah.
and what's coming out in July is Catacomb of Torment number 13.
Yeah, definitely, definitely pick that up to help support, so you can get to bring up the sales of the book, so you can get more
Yeah,
eyes on the writing.
and then write a letter to because they have like the mailbag like
Oh no
write a
way! Oh, I forgot
yeah
about that. Yeah,
so yeah write a letter and tell them you particularly enjoyed my story.
that's right. Or hate it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
either way, as long as you write it,
any
yeah,
engagement is good
it's
engagement.
good. All right, all right.
Um,
Thank you, everybody. Naman, I guess we'll let
yeah,
you.
yeah, Naman. He's in the chat. Like, is he here? Like, how are we gonna end
Yeah,
the
how do we
stream?
end this? Because we can't just have it running, right? Do we just
Yeah,
leave?
because we can both leave, Loke, but I think Naman is still gonna be streaming, so
Yeah,
I don't know what he wants to do about that. Like,
right. Anyways, lots of luck. All right, so
what, like
we're
we're being held hostage.
that's right. We'll end. Okay, there you go. Okay, so we're leaving the stream.